Okay. So welcome everyone to the session. Okay. Finally, well, thank you. Welcome everyone to the session, AI Governance and Safety, G7 Hiroshima AI Process. So I'm Arisa, your moderator and a professor of the University of Tokyo. And it's a really great honor to organize this wonderful panel session. So in this session, I would like to discuss about this AI governance issue. And as you can, you know that there's a lots of things that's been discussed around the AI governance. So there's, for example, the various layers. For example, in the international layers or the corporate layers or like the technical approach. And also, so we also are, we all know that we need some kind of governance or the regulation or the rules, but however, we also need some kind of mapping or to see what's going on, what's happening around the world. And I think this session will give you some kind of some introduction about what is actually ongoing in each discussion scene. So in this session, I would like to ask each of the panelists to first share about what's being discussed in each of the organization. So first of all, I would like to introduce the distinguished panelists. So I would like to go from my right side. So the first is Mr. Amandeep Gill, the Under Secretary General, the Tech Envoy of the United Nations. And the next to me is the Ms. Anna Makanju, the Vice President of Global Affairs of OpenAI. And the next person next to me is the Mr. Christoph Winterhalter, sorry, the Vice President of Policy of ISO and CEO of that team. And last but not least is the Mr. Yoichi Iida, the Assistant Vice Minister for International Affairs, the Japanese Ministry of Internal Affairs and Communications. So in this session, I would like to go for like hopefully 3 rounds. So first round, I would like to ask each of the panelists briefly, maybe at most like 5 minutes, to talk about what's being discussed amongst in each of the organizations that and in the second round we would like to discuss about how then we can make some kind of cooperation amongst all the each international or the corporate or the technical layers is going. And the third round we are open to the audiences, so I would like to hear what's your thinking or what's your comments, questions, and to kind of promote this kind of a discussion and to move forward about this AI governance issues. So first of all, since this session's topic is about the Hiroshima AI process, I would like to first ask the professor, the Iida-san, the Yoichiro-san, to talk about what's the Hiroshima AI process has been progressed. Yeah, Iida-san, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor, and good afternoon, everybody. My name is Yoichi Iida, as kindly introduced. I'm working at the Japanese government, and last year I was serving as chair at the G7 working group on digital policy, and then we started the work on Hiroshima AI process, and I was also serving as the chair of the working group. So I just, it's my great pleasure to have this chance to share what we discussed and what we achieved and what we are going to do further with you and all the audience beyond the network. So I hope many of you have heard about the Hiroshima AI process, which was established in Hiroshima summit in last May. And at that time, all the people around the world were watching the rapid progress of generative AI. And Before that, we were discussing what the AI governance should be, and, in particular at the global level, and our national leaders of G7 recognized the importance of discussing the governance on generative AI. So they directed the relevant ministers to explore what would be the risks and the challenges brought by generative AI, and what would be the ideal governance framework for such a powerful, emerging, but sometimes untransparent and probably sometimes dangerous technology. And so we started the discussion, and first we discussed what are the risks and the challenges brought by the technology, as well as the opportunities, of course, the benefits brought by the same technology. And we discussed the lack of transparency, risks to privacy and intellectual property, and also the spread of disinformation. And those are the major risks among others. And we started to discuss how we could cope with and work against those risks and challenges. And first, we discussed some high-level guiding principles for organizations developing advanced AI systems. Here we mean AI systems including generative AI, but not limited to them. And we also included foundation models, and also probably we may have even newer types of AI in the future. So we wanted to cover all those new types and powerful AI systems under our discussion. So first we discussed such guiding principles for organizations developing such AI systems, and then we started discussion on code of conduct for organizations, in particular the private companies who develop such AI systems. And we discussed a lot of action level items which would be recommended to those organizations. So what we discussed and agreed were, for example, risk measurement before development of AI systems, and also the measuring risks and also taking countermeasures against such risks and challenges even after the development of AI systems, and also the marketing of such services. We also discussed information disclosure, in particular on the capability of AI systems, as well as the risks of inappropriate use of such AI systems when people know the limit of such AI systems. And also we discussed some information sharing obligations, and in particular not limited to the risks, potential risks and the challenges, but also some incident brought by AI systems in reality. And we also discussed some I'm sorry, we discussed mainly risks and challenges, but at the same time, we wanted to focus on positive side. So we also discussed some necessity to raise literacy and the skills of the people in the AI ecosystem, in particular the users. So at the end of the discussion, we agreed the set of guiding principles and the code of conduct, which are recommended to those relevant players. And for all those items and discussions, the fundamental idea was the government needs to think about how we could put a guardrail for the relevant players in AI ecosystem without pushing too much pressure on the possibility of innovation. So we wanted to keep the enabling environment open and free as much as possible, but we want, of course, we want to ensure security, safety, and trust in the AI industry and AI society. So we discussed all those guiding principles and the code of conduct, and at the end of the year, and we also agreed on work plan toward the year beyond. So the work plan include the actions and some efforts to increase inclusivity, because we started this discussion among a very limited number of governments, such as G7, and we are very eager to share our idea with other countries, and also we discussed the importance of multi-stakeholder approach, because we strongly believe, this is not the discussion only for the government, but we always need to listen to and work with other stakeholders, including business players and civil society and tech community, others. And we also discussed the importance of collaboration with other work streams, such as UN and others. So this year, we continue our work on Hiroshima process under Italian presidency within the framework of G7. And as I said, we will expand the partners beyond G7, of course, and we will look forward to working with countries from Global South and relevant players from other communities, including civil society. So thank you very much. And I stop here, and I look very much forward to the discussion.
Thank you very much, Yoichi. So that was kind of very brief and concrete, the introduction of what's been discussed in the G7 Hiroshima AI process. So with that, I would like to ask the other panelists about what their organization is actually doing, and maybe, if possible, a little bit of expectations and also the challenges that the Hiroshima AI process would have, and how doing so. So I would like to start from more the international level. So maybe Amandeep, could you give us what's going on in the UN?
There's a lot going on, and I think you are part of the most important conversation that's currently underway, and that's the Secretary General's advisory body on AI, which just released its interim report, follows up, picks up on many of the themes that were just mentioned. I think there is a context point to be appreciated here, and that's the Summit of the Future in September, where leaders will meet, and there's a once-in-a-generation opportunity to reboot multilateralism. And there's a specific track on digital technologies. A global digital compact is to be adopted. Negotiations are getting started next month. So all the efforts that are being made on the international governance of AI, if we can bring them together to a decision point, we have that opportunity. So just want to set the context there. What's the advisory body doing? What's it been tasked to do by the Secretary General is to help the international, national, private sector level efforts on the governance of AI by offering a global perspective, an inclusive perspective. It's important that the G7 leads, the G20, then you have GPI, 28, 29 countries, the UK AI Safety Summit gathered around that many countries, but we have 193 countries that are members of United Nations. So how do we take it from a G7 to a G193 type of a setting? That's the effort that's underway. And also, how can we bring a more comprehensive lens to look at risks and challenges, not just short-term risks, of course, violation of privacy, violation of human rights, and not just longer-term existential risks, which many wanted to focus at the UK AI Safety Summit, but all kinds of risks, also from the perspective of vulnerability of people and planet, all kinds of risks, including shifts in societal relationships, shifts in the job market. That'll have implications for public policy a few years down the lane. A very important consideration that's been kind of not sufficiently focused on so far is the opportunity side of AI. And I'm not talking here only of the commercial opportunity to develop products and services and make a lot of money. That's, yes, important. But what's the opportunity for accelerating sustainable development goals beyond just the headline thing, AI will revolutionize health or revolutionize education? And what are the foundations, what are the enablers that are needed if a country in Africa, for instance, and there's no African country in the top 50 countries on AI. And that's an additional problem with regard to the digital divide. So if you want to set out to solve those societal problems, what do you need to do? What kind of a data digital economy you need to put in place? What kind of human resource is required? What kind of compute infrastructure is required? So that's one of the things. And finally, in addition to, as you said at the outset, there is a very important national effort. The EU AI Act, the Chinese interim measures, the US EO, then there are G7 and other efforts. There is the industry effort, and I'm sure, Anna, you'll go into that in the Foundation Models Forum, other places, partnership on AI. What's the role for international governance of AI? So it's not just what's left to be done, but what are the important functions we need to perform regularly at the international level so the national effort and the industrial effort come together as a coherent whole for the benefit of all humanity. So through the advisory body, you have those reflections, a regular horizon scanning effort. What's the technology? What's its direction, implications, risks, opportunities? Also interoperability efforts in terms of being able to operate across borders, making sure safety, risk management frameworks are understood clearly and they are interoperable. And then the capacity building effort, the leveraging for the SDGs effort. So those kind of functionalities have been identified. In the next phase, there'll be a focus on what kind of institutional forms can fit those functions and who should perform them. So this is a very, very important conversation that builds on several years of work within the UN, the UNESCO AI ethics guideline, the guiding principles on lethal autonomous weapons, adopted back in 2017, 2018, and to bring it to that point in September 2024 when we meet at the Summit of the Future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Amandeep. And that was really good information about what's the international layers discussion is about. And also for the Anna, maybe you can talk about more like a corporate governance level and more maybe plus the extended discussion like the forum that you're involved in. So, yeah.
So, as you know, OpenAI was founded with this mission to ensure that this technology benefits everyone. And of course, a key piece of that is ensuring safety, which we kind of think about in three buckets. One, models that are out there today. How do we ensure they're not interacting in a biased way, that they're not, they're not harming people or providing harmful information? And then we have a preparedness team, which really thinks about, as we're seeing what's in the frontier, because we do have a slight advantage of seeing like 5 months into the future of this technology, and what does it take to ensure that we're thinking about all of the challenges that new research is going to identify. And then, of course, we have a team. We may never reach super intelligence that is more advanced than humans, but if we do, this is the time to start thinking about that. And, one of the principles that OpenAI was founded on is cooperative orientation. So I think some people were surprised that we really welcomed regulatory intervention, but we know that we ourselves are never going to be able to solve the range of challenges that people are going to face as a result of this technology, including how to ensure that that the benefits are equally experienced. So we know that we need this partnership with governments and multilateral institutions and civil society. And I think what the G7 process did was really remarkable, because I was with my colleague at Google today, and even Google is struggling with the incredible proliferation of efforts that on governance that currently exist, and where should we focus our attention? And G7, was this remarkable effort to bring together a number of key players, and now with incorporating others, other governments to have this really balanced framework. And the UN effort is really critical. We're participating in that and really looking forward to kind of bringing all of this together.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, I would also like to hear about what's the standards level that the ISOs are doing within the AI governance issues.
Well, thanks a lot, Arisa, and thanks a lot to everybody from the AI House to accept ISO as a partner and invite us to speak here, because we talk a lot about standardization, but it's very important to understand how standardization actually works. I mean, ISO is not a single organization. It's a network of more than 100,000 experts dealing with understanding the challenges that we have on the shop floor and try to develop international standards that help them kind of to be more efficient in the way how they work, also with new technologies. And these 100,000 experts are organized by national organizations. I mean, I'm German, I'm sitting in Berlin, I'm running a large German national standards organization, which is of course a member in the ISO network. We are not at 193 countries, but 167 active members are actually contributing to the standards development. And one of the technical committees which organizes kind of the themes of the standardization work, is a joint committee with our sister organization, the IEC, working on information technology. And one of the largest subcommittees is actually dealing with artificial intelligence, where we have 60 active countries, a lot of them from the global south, actively contributing to standardization efforts in AI. Of course, they focused a lot in the beginning of terminology, that we're all speaking the same language, that we know that we're talking about the same things. But recently, I mean, we have developed something very important. I think we released a first management system standard for AI, which is quite compatible with all the other management system standards. And it includes, of course, requirements to governance. So how to govern the development of AI. I mean, if you bring a product to the market that includes AI, what do you need to do in order to do a proper risk assessment to make sure that you have the steps, the capacity, the knowledge in place to deal with this new technology? And I think it's very important. But I think it would be naive to think that there is a governance for AI, there's another governance for data, there's another parallel governance deals with cybersecurity. No, I mean, if you're going down to small companies, I mean, they need to have an integrated management system that deals with all these governance requirements. So it's important that a management system is a natural extension to an integrated management system that is used out there with all the companies. And having said that, that's the key to have a practical understanding what needs to be put in place in small companies if they want to utilize AI, and to have it compatible with the existing system. I think that is the key. So we're not only talking about standard requirements for AI, we really need to dig down into the application areas to understand what are the current rules used in companies to deal with these applications. If we want to enhance and improve these applications using AI, we need to understand what kind of AI additional requirements do we have to implement in existing management systems. So I think what we can bring to the table as a standardization organization is not only a huge network of experts, it's a standards catalog that needs to be extended and enhanced with the ideas and the capabilities of AI. Not just developing new standards describing AI, we need to adapt, enhance, include AI capabilities in the existing standards. And that is what this network can do. And that is the key to practical deployment of all the kind of considerations we are having on AI governance. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And maybe for the next second round, maybe the brief one or two sentences, but I think maybe you can just go other way around and maybe ask Christoph. So I think when we just talk about before the session, so you said it is really important to put like the dots and dots to be connected. And in that sense, how do you think and also the Amandeep talk about like interoperability, so and also like a transparency is really important, because a lot of governance things the regulatory thing, the framework, so the OECD and Amidst, the government are actually kind of promoting this AI governance issue. So I would like to hear what kind of efforts or the challenges you're facing when we discuss about this AI governance issues. And because this session is really, I think, awesome because we have like international layers, the corporate layers, and also like the standards layers, and also the G7 Hiroshima AI process is more like the kind of focuses on the more like the generative AI issues. So these kind of section is really, I think, important, and having this kind of discussion, how we can collaborate each other, and what kind of things can be done, or well, maybe for like that today, what can we start for the next step? So I think that will be really important for like the audiences to know what can we do for the next step. So maybe if you have some kind of hints or the actual efforts, I would like to hear for the.
No, thanks a lot for the question. And that's one of the reasons why we're here, to make transparent what is happening and basically offer the technical network that we are operating within our kind of expert network of ISO. But it's important to understand that all the initiatives that we have been hearing about here, they are top-down initiatives, coming from the G7, coming from the UN, coming from governments. It's top-down. So top-down, we agree on what needs to be done, and then we try to translate it to something that can be implemented in the various applications, in the various countries, under different regulatory environments. But then we have the bottom-up approach, and that's how standardization works. So we have a complementary approach where experts decide there's a need to develop a standard. There's a regulation coming up, so let's talk about what we can do in order to be technically compliant with that regulation. So it's the bottom-up initiative. And at the same time, we get horizontal challenges. Well, naturally, the whole bottom-up initiative was sectorial organized. So we have a lot of various sectors that have been working more or less in isolation. There was very little spillover from one sector to the other. Now with a horizontal technology like AI, you need to understand that there's a horizontal kind of standardization effort to understand what does AI actually mean. And then, of course, you have the sector-specific requirements. And that is a governance issue. And as a vice president policy, I'm responsible for governance and strategy. And governance means how we can evolve as a standardization organization to facilitate and orchestrate the dialogue between the horizontal standardization people, incorporating all the new technology experts and the more traditional sectors that would like to be users of this new technology. So that's a challenge that we have internally, to bring people together, to have AI experts not only joining the AI technical committees, but going down trying to understand the applications, not theoretically, not in conjunction with a research project, but what are the real requirements that are used in the production of certain devices that will now have to deal with AI to understand how to practically deploy these kind of ideas that we have. And I think to connect the dots, sector-specific, vertically and horizontally, as well as the bottom-up community needs to be engaged and understand what are these recommendations coming from top-down. That it's not like, not invented here, I don't like this, they don't know what they're talking about. No, we need to engage people. We need to translate, it's a translation process. We need to understand what is happening, what are we actually trying to achieve globally, top down, and what does that mean for the technical experts? But we need to engage them as early as possible. Otherwise, we'll have a lot of good principles, but nobody understanding how to implement them, basically receiving a lot of pushback that this is unrealistic and not possible. So involving the technical experts, and that's why here, basically opening the network, understanding what is happening in the different sectors.
Thank you, Christoph. So I would also like to hear about what's like a corporate level, and also to how to make this the dots to be connected, and what kind of efforts or like what kind of expectations you have with the other organizations.
First of all, it's very cool to hear someone bring so much passion to the standards conversation. But because, I mean, this is critically important, and, you know, it's something that I think isn't often discussed. And so I'm really glad that you're on this panel. But generally, I do think that, you know, this is why the UN effort, which does bring together all of these communities, is super important, because it's very important they all have buy-in into the work that is happening. But also, you know, one of the things we've really tried to do is get just at the company level agreement, because, you know, we all red team models. We all look to have safe deployment and responsible deployment, and we all do something completely different. So even just some broad agreement on what we as an industry think makes sense, because we're all competing But at the same time, it benefits all of us for people to believe that this technology is safe and that they can safely engage with it. So this is the Frontier Model Forum, and that's one of the key efforts where we really try to do that. And I think initially it was criticized as, this is just the industry voice, but every single government I've spoken to kind of asked us to do something like this. So it's actually in response to a lot of demand.
Thank you very much. And Amandeep, maybe you can continue?
I think staying with the standards and interoperability issue, there is a very important point that's being made here, which is that we shouldn't be thinking of AI standards, AI governance in isolation, because the devices that are deploying AI tools, the data on which AI relies, it's still coming through the existing digital ecosystem. So there's a data governance aspect, there's a human rights online aspect, there is an internet fragmentation, different geographies doing their own thing aspect. So that's why, I come back to the Global Digital Compact at the Summit of the Future, where you have a 360-degree framework on digital technology. So AI governance has to be embedded in that. I think we cannot just construct a new kind of a governance regime in isolation, splendid isolation. And on standards, the challenge really is that most of the standard setting organizations today are in a certain paradigm, and whereas we need socio-technical standards. And if you look at the framework that has been recently put together in the US, the NIST work on this, there is a move away from a purely technical approach, bringing in behavioral scientists, anthropologists, others, because AI is different in that sense. And that, I think, brings me to my last point in this round, which is that we have to consider implications for governance writ large. The software of our societies, the section is very fond of saying this, the software of our societies might get rewritten a few years down the lane. How we relate to each other, if you have all these agents that are being promised. I was at the CES in Las Vegas, so there's a lot of excitement, buzz around these things. Now, they will have an impact on how we relate to each other. This is going to amplify the impact that existing digital tools and services have had on how societies are run and how we relate to each other. So there's a larger challenge for governance, and our public sector institutions are not up to the task. So we need more investment in our analog institutions to be able to handle the kind of society that we are headed to. And Japan is really a pioneer in thinking about the next society in which machines, human-machine interaction would have a stronger role. Not enough governments are thinking about that.
Thank you very much. And maybe Yoichi.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for very kind words, and also the much broader perspective and the much quicker pace of discussion here today. Difficult for me to make a good comment to follow, but I try to anyway, I'm a government official, so I try to my best.
Just in short.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So. Yeah. So I want to make 2 points. If we look at the beginning of the discussion on at the Hiroshima process, we started the discussion because we wanted to keep and improve the interoperability between different governance frameworks. Because we know, as all of you know, EU had already started the discussion on AI Act, while US and Japan and others are still going forward into other direction to keeping the free and open, enabling non-binding regulatory framework. So we don't want to see, the global governance is split out, but we wanted to keep the different governance frameworks coherent and more harmonized. And so that's why we started the discussion how to keep interoperability between different frameworks and how to improve coherency across the different jurisdictions. And we did the discussion among only 7 countries and 1 region. But as I said in the beginning, inclusivity is very important. So we want to expand the coverage. We will invite the countries from Global South and other partner countries from around the world. And we are planning to start discussion and also not only discussion, but some activities based on project to improve interoperability and also the some potential tools to improve trust in AI ecosystem. And the second point is if you look at the document called Guiding Principles and Code of Conduct from Hiroshima Process, you will find the word living document. So we believe these guiding principles or those rules are not complete, of course. So we need to keep discussing, and we need to cope with the rapid changes, not only in the technology but also in the social conditions. And so we will keep working with all stakeholders in the ecosystem, and we will continue discussing how we could improve those governance frameworks for the future of better AI society. So we will do such work with other stakeholders and other countries in the coming years.
Thank you very much. So as Yoichi just mentioned, inclusiveness is really important. So I would like to open up some of the the comments or the questions from the audiences. Maybe we can just extend like 5 minutes a little bit. So maybe if you have like 1 or 2 questions, comments, yeah. So 1 and 2 maybe, yeah.
You need to throw it.
Hi, I was just going to ask, Mr. Gill, you mentioned the AI Summit already, and obviously one of the outcomes of that was the State of the Science report that's modelled on the IPCC. So I just wondered what the panellists thought of, will that system work for AI? Has it worked in the past?
Thank you, and also there's another... Oh, throw it. Oh.
I'm just not good with squares. Should I let you answer or should I ask first?
Oh, you can take over.
Okay, so you mentioned that there were organizations that are working on these standards, but there are many such standards being worked on currently, and some of them must be relatively competing. What is going to be the role of the international organizations to make sure that at some point the standards come together and also are applied, because it's not because there's a standard that it just gets adopted by society at large?
Thank you. Is there another one? Okay, then the two then, and we'll oh, okay. We'll catch.
Hi, we just attended the open source discussion right before this one, and I would like to ask you, Anna, from OpenAI, how do you see the mutual understanding between OpenAI, or the closed source environment, and the open source one?
Okay.
Thank you.
The last.
Thank you very much. How do you envision the effective enforcement of these standards? Because it's beautiful to have quality management system, with different aspects like cybersecurity, data protection, human rights, sustainability, etc. But at one point, what is extremely important is to create mechanism for effective remedies, redress mechanism, and of course sometimes class action perhaps. And at international level, this is a challenge, because the legal framework are different. Thank you.
Thank you. So,
One question.
yeah.
Very 5 seconds. I gave Sam Altman exactly the same question yesterday at dinner time. Here we go.
Okay, so maybe we'll then go from like Amandeep to Yoichi for the last comment. So 1 minute in person.
Sure. On the IPCC question, I think the idea that there should be independent scientific assessment that are not tied to particular political or commercial interests, that's sound. But we cannot wait for 6 to 7 years, IPCC-like in this scenario. So we need more 6-7 monthly type of assessment. And we have to make it more multi-stakeholder. The IPCC model is very solidly intergovernmental. How can we avoid negotiating scientific assessments? I think the UK effort is closely complementary to what the advisory body in the UN is doing. And we're working with Yoshua Bengio on reinforcing that complementarity. Quick 5-second, the compliance aspect. Through international human rights commitments, you have a pathway to reinforcing compliance. So we have to use international law, the UN Charter, human rights and humanitarian law to reinforce accountability in addition to national law, of course.
Thank you. And Anna?
Well, I'm sure Sam pointed out that we open sourced a state-of-the-art text-to-speech model, and also Clip, which has enabled a lot of the image generation models, and GPT-2, which actually some people tell me they still use. So we've open sourced a number of quite useful models, and it's quite possible we will do so in the future. So I don't think it's really a binary.
Thank you very much.
And regarding the cooperation between the standardization organizations, I mean, especially JTC1 or SC42 dealing with artificial intelligence has a specific history of working with consortia that have sector-specific standards and basically bring them on board to evaluate those standards under the kind of multi-stakeholder process of ISO and IEC and turn them into international standards that will go through a very inclusive process to make sure that everybody has understood what somebody else brings to the table and elevate it to an international standard. So there's much more understanding for this type of collaboration between organizations than ever before, and in particular when it comes to AI. And then the next question about how to enforce things, not necessarily how to enforce it, but thinking beyond standards. We need to have a quality infrastructure, that the standards are kind of certifiable, and that you have a process how to certify things, that you need an accreditation function that actually tells a company and evaluates a company whether they are ready to certify according to a certain standard. And there's a national responsibility of a market surveillance function, trying to supervise, are these things actually claiming features that they don't have? And in the end of the day, it's a customer-supplier relationship that forces a certain certification, that forces that this is implemented according to a standard. And that is kind of a supplier-customer relationship, which makes sure that things are actually implemented in a proper way. And there is an existing quality infrastructure for, let's say, the non-digital, the analog industry. So I think it's a very wise thought to bring these requirements on the digital side into an existing quality infrastructure. Otherwise, you would have to go through a separate certification, just looking at the aspect of AI with a certification body that just zooms into this particular requirement instead of having an integrated management system. And then you have one certification process that goes into all these different aspects and ensures that this company is able to handle the products with all the functionality that they're claiming it.
Thank you. And final remarks for the group.
Thank you very much. Not much to add because this is going much faster than the government speed. So I don't have much to add. But just one word for conclusion. One of the values of Hiroshima process is that created such momentum to encourage and invite the stakeholders from all the different communities and activize the discussion. So I very much looking forward to further discussion and collaboration. Thank you very much for the discussion today.
Okay, thank you very much. So unfortunately, this is the end of the session, but we'll still continue this kind of discussion. So thank you very much for the panelists, and this is the meeting.